On February 24th, explosions woke me up. I came up to the window and I saw some kind of unusual action going on outside. There is a gas station next to my house. There were way too many cars at it. Since it was about 6 o'clock in the morning, I thought it was unusual. It was obvious that something bad happened in our country. I was at home when I heard 3 loud explosions. The doctor who that morning was on call in the maternity clinic called me. She said that the war started and asked me what she should do with the staff who, by the way, acted as collected as never before. I knew that I had to be there with my patients and my staff. Russia attacked our country in 2014. As you remember, they took Crimea, then they came to Donetsk and Luhansk. I had a feeling that the war won't end soon, and it had been going for 8 years. In 2014, we remodeled our bomb shelter. And thanks God, it worked. This is our bomb shelter. This is a generator that gave us electricity when the power supply was off. This room is equipped for the staff and mothers for the time when there's an air attack. We placed the beds so that there was a passage in between. This way it's comfortable both for the staff and for the woman. Here is the OR, where babies were delivered. Here are the beds for the patients and for the babies. We also arranged a station where nurses were on call around the clock to provide medical help to both mothers and babies. Many women hid in there. They gave birth in there and hid there afterwards. At some point, there were about 100 people. Our facility was in some ways ready for this war. I thought it might happen. On February 24th, I was at work at 8 in the morning, and I have been here since that day. Starting from that day, there were constant air attacks and artillery shelling in the city. Of course, it was very hard, psychologically. For me, as a medical director, the scariest was the days when they shelled our medical facilities. Their actions were so severe that it seems our clinic would just fall apart. At one point, when all the women were in the shelter, none of them was about to give birth. We went upstairs to do some paperwork, and our clinic was hit. The explosion was so hard that walls wobbled. After a few seconds, we understood that we could have died. Some days it was happening day and night. There were fights at the distance of about 200 to 300 meters from our facility. But women continued to give birth. On the 25th and on the March 1st, we had about 6 to 7 deliveries. That's a lot. A woman is given birth and here starts a shelling. We take her to the basement, then to the bomb shelter. We often had to carry women there. Sometimes very quickly, sometimes in the dead of night. A woman can't choose when she'll give birth. It can happen at 9 in the evening or at 3 in the morning. You can't adjust that. You have to start helping when she starts. When a baby was being delivered on this table, doctors put in on its mother to the sounds of explosions. It was crazy. We were happy when a newborn started crying, because for the time we forgot about the war. We had to think about the baby and its mother. Women understood us. They did their best to support us. Women understood us. They did their best to support us. They recovered very quickly, both after the natural deliveries and after the C-sections. Half an hour after the delivery, a woman with a baby in her arms went to the bomb shelter. About 4 hours after the C-section, another woman got up and went to the bomb shelter. Such things can only happen during the war. I remember that during one C-section, we were standing with Halina Leontievna. At night, it was so cold, and we were standing in the OR, and it was massive shelling. And I had feeling, at that moment, I could be struck with a missile and a newborn would just fall to the ground. Am I right? I had the same feeling and only one thought on my mind: we have to save the baby. And who will take the baby and bring it to the neonatologist as quickly as possible? When we went down to the bomb shelter, we had to warm the newborns up with hot water bottles. We filled them up so that the little ones don't lose the precious warmth. On February 24th, a premature triplet was born in our clinic. In the morning of that day, we had 11 preterm children in severe conditions in our department. Usually we accept no more than 9 children, but at the start of the war we had 11 of them. There was no power supply at times. We also suffered from equipment shortage. On the first day we divided the newborns into 2 groups. Babies we could move, spend a lot of time in the bomb shelter. However, it was impossible to bring all necessary equipment in there. Moving other babies to the shelter meant that they won't come back alive. And so we stayed with them. Mothers asked if it was safe for the babies. We told them that with us their babies were safe, and we were at their side and wouldn't go anywhere, maybe into the hall where the equipment can be moved to. Our task was to hide the children, not ourselves. It was scary. Of course, we wanted to survive as well. And I can't express the fear in words. We continued to work to care for the babies, to release them, to give them to their parents. We did our job, as always, quietly, effectively, and almost calmly, if one could say so, in this situation. There were explosions and shots. We helped deliver babies in a hall. It got worse when there was no more water and power supply. We had to perform surgeries with the flashlights as the only light source. At night it was like -7 outside. The heating wasn't working. We had to bring water to heat it up and to lay bottles with hot water to warm up the patients. A surgery can often cause bleeding. When it's cold, this process aggravates. Then the airplane started to fly, and it was scary. We overcame our fear, went there and did our job. Who would do it for us? At some point, you just have to. And that's it.
В певний час
Sometimes
вважали, що цей момент
we thought that the hardest moment has come. We didn't know that it would become even harder.
Тому все поступово.
It came gradually.
Спочатку ми думали, що
At first we thought that the first night of the war was
у нас
the hardest and the scariest.
ми вважали,
We thought that we were in hell. We didn't know where the shooting was coming from someone right next to us or from farther away. Tanks were passing by. We thought if we survived this night, it would get easier in the morning. It would start to clear up.
буде зрозуміло,
However,
але на ранок
nothing has changed in the morning. Sometime later,
було
a hospital nearly was shelled,
бомбардування мінами.
and we thought that
Лікарні
it was the scariest thing ever. A salvo was so powerful.
Такі були залпи, ми думали, що
We thought it wasn't there anymore.
роддому вже нема.
It seemed to be the hardest day. On the second day, we hoped that we had the most horrific things behind us. And in the evening, the same thing happened. However, not with the other hospital, but with our maternity clinic.
Другої лікарні, а по пологовому будинку.
At that point, we also
Тоді
thought
було
that
теж
it was
думали, що це
the hardest
для
moment.
декого саме тяжкий, саме
Later
важкий
came
момент був.
other hard moments.
Потім ще
When
були
we started
важкі
to move
моменти, коли
children
ми
to
перейшли
the
дітей,
hospital in Kiev, for
транспортували
example.
до
The bridge over river Desna was already been blown up.
міст через
We had to carry children over the footbridge,
переносили
shooting everywhere.
пішки.
Artillery bombs and to those sounds. We were carrying two babies, me and Dr. Bazarna.
Несли двох дітей, ми,
There was
я і лікар ще одна, Вікторія Вікторівна.
Був дуже сильний обстріл нашого району.
a very hard shelling of our area.
Поцілили в
And
наш пологовий будинок.
then something struck our maternity clinic. Every time when there was an air alarm, when the siren went off, we've heard airplanes.
Цей страх,
I don't know how many years one would need to ease this fear a little,
воно не забудеться,
because
поки
one would never
згадувалось.
be able to forget it.
Тому коли ще
Now
зараз
when
хтось
someone
чи стукне
slams the
дверями,
door
чи хтось там
or moves
стілець
a chair
перед
loudly,
ним, ми здригаємося.
we flinch.
І ми
I don't know how to say it. Subconsciously, I wait for the air alarm. I wait for the sound of an airplane, and I wait for the ground to shake. This will probably stay in my head for some time. It's very scary.
Це дуже страшно.
Цього. Цієї
All of
війни,
this,
цього знущання,
this war,
цього горя,
this torture, this sorrow,
ми ніколи
we will never forget.
ні ми,
Neither we, not
Наші
our
діти,
children,
ні
not
наші
our
онуки.
grandchildren.
У мене є внучка, їй 7 років.
I have a granddaughter who is 7. She has been here for the whole time. She has seen it all. And the way she talks about unexploded missiles on the playground, and she shouted at me that we have to hide in the basement because the airplane is coming. And it's so scary that the child so young, and she understands it all. She says, "Don't worry, they're ours. They aren't strangers, they're ours. They're not Russians. We don't have to hide." I'm like, the shots are so close to us. And she says, no, they're ours. They won't hit us. I wish our kids would forget all that as soon as possible. And I wish neither they nor the next generations would have to go through the nightmare that we are going through now.
Були в тому жахітті, в якому зараз знаходимось ми.
Для мене все українське – це
For me, Ukraine means all human-like.
бо я
I've not been
українець
Ukrainian since the
від
first
першого
day
дня
of my
життя.
life.
Я
I was born in Soviet Union, in Belarus, next to Homel. Up to the time when I started at the Chernihiv Medical School at 15, I was Belarusian, not Ukrainian. Then I started studying at the Medical University in Kyiv. When I graduated, I gladly came back to Chernihiv to work here. I didn't want to come back home because I've always liked Ukraine. So I have a special attitude towards this situation.
Що я можу вам сказати про Росію?
What can I tell you about Russia? It's a huge country. I can't say that I had a good attitude towards them at any point in time. But I can't say that I hate them. You mustn't hate people. But you can despise people. You can see that their leader, Vladimir Vladimirovich, says that we don't exist. He doesn't consider us to be people. They say Ukrainians don't exist, that we are all Russians. But you and I are not Russian. I'm definitely not. I don't want to be Russian. Not because I'm nationalist. I've never been a nationalist. I've never been a member of any consignment. Because doctors are there to treat people. And I've been doing it for my whole life. I don't want to be someone else. I'm Ukrainian, and I'm not ashamed of it. I've been speaking Ukrainian my whole life. I love to be Ukrainian.
Мені приємно бути українцем.
We have an opportunity
Маємо можливість
to be immortal because we can carry
бути
ourselves in our children.
Ми продовжуємо себе в своїх дітях.
Взагалі пологи для жінки –
Childbirth is
як такий
stress
стрес, можна
for
сказати.
every woman.
Жінка відчуває
Every woman is
стрес,
worried
хвилюється,
about
переживає.
how it would go
А в військовий
in the
час,
wartime
коли
when you constantly
постійно
hear shots from outside,
постріли, постійно
when you
йде
hear shelling with heavy weapons.
технікою, да?
Mothers were very worried. We were constantly by their side. We told them, I'm here for you. I will help you. Don't be afraid. Think about yourself and your baby that you're bringing into the world. You're about to meet a new life, a new little Ukrainian. When we hear a newborn scream, we hear the voice of our future.
Голос нашого майбутнього.